What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my watch list ahead of Game Week 31. So a short list of players that I'm looking to bring in this week or over the next few weeks and my reasons why. And I'm also going to interact with my team a little bit as well, because I think right now I'm thinking I really need Chelsea. I really need Man City. I really want that third Liverpool player. But the priority order of which ones to bring in when is important. And also, I don't think I necessarily need them all straight away. And I'm going to talk through why that is as well. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. One position I really want to get in is a premium defender, right? They're always great value, always lots of points for, a cheap price, playing for great teams, all really attacking as well. And if I just bring up my team as it looks, I mean, it doesn't look that bad this week. I've got 2 free transfers, so I can definitely change things up. But if Trent was fit, which I know looks unlikely right now for the Watford game, but if he was, him against Watford, Doherty against Newcastle, Tierney against Palace, away, it's not that bad, right? But if you could add one of these 3 in, then that's decent. The point I'm trying to make, I guess, is I don't necessarily suddenly need to get all 3 of these in alongside Trent and just smash loads of transfers and take loads of hits. So then it comes down to a priority order. Now, let's really briefly talk about the fixture run, because I did speak about it yesterday for some of the teams. All these teams are still in Europe. And I would say in the league, they've kind of all got something to play for, right? Liverpool and Man City have obviously got the title. The title is not completely out of reach of Chelsea. Now, I think everyone would say it's very unlikely Chelsea can win it. But they're what, like 10-ish points behind? There's still like 9, 10 games to go for some teams. It's not impossible. It's very unlikely, but it's not impossible. They also don't have top 4 completely sewn up either. So I'm not saying that Chelsea will rotate just as little as Liverpool and Man City, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as we're maybe predicting. And obviously a lot will depend then on what happens in Europe, right? Do these teams go out? I think Liverpool have got Benfica, Man City have got Atletico Madrid, and Chelsea have got Real Madrid. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. If any of these teams go out, the rotation obviously becomes a little bit less. But let's say we're only bringing one of these players in this week. Let's say I can only afford one. They're all attacking. They all play for good defences. I think with Robertson, just really quickly, I think he can wait till game week 34. I think Watford at home is really good. Don't get me wrong. Clean sheet there, attacking potential, absolutely. But Man City away is tricky. And look, Man United at home, again, people get too hung up on who's going to win these games. It doesn't matter from an FPL point of view. Liverpool in score like 3-4 goals. Fair enough, that could absolutely happen. But it's just one of those games where I'd always bank on Man United scoring a goal, which means Robertson's clean sheet's gone. And then it looks a little bit trickier to get like a big haul. I'm not saying he can't get attacking returns, but the ceiling for his points comes down. So I think he can probably wait till game week 34. That's how I'm feeling right now anyway. Next up is Cancelo. And by the way, I've put their top 10k ownership on because that's kind of real active managers right now. And it's interesting to see just how low some of these players are. I think Burnley looks like a guaranteed clean sheet. And I say that as someone that's thinking about bringing in Weghorst. Because it's just how Man City just always dominate Burnley. They always dominate the ball. Happy days. Then they've got Liverpool, and that is smack bang in between like games against Atletico Madrid, Liverpool in the FA Cup as well. So there could be some rotation, but these competitions are so important. The games are so difficult. I don't know if it's going to happen that much. The only kind of disadvantage, I guess, for bringing in a Man City player is they will probably get through the Champions League, so they'll have more games to contend with later on. But if for any reason there's not a huge amount of rotation for Cancelo, Brighton, Watford, Leeds and Newcastle, they are all games Man City could get clean sheets in. They're not probably going to get 4, but 2 or 3 plus attack and returns, bonus points. Cancelo is probably right now top of my list to come in because a lot will depend on whether I free hit in 33. But if I don't, then that fixture against Brighton at home in 33, again, that just looks like another dead cert for a clean sheet. Of course, nothing's 100% guaranteed, but you'd bet pretty good money on that. So I do like Cancelo, but obviously, like Robertson, he has to play a difficult game in game week 32. Reece James is next. Those games against Arsenal and West Ham are maybe a little bit trickier in 33, 34. Arguably, they've got the toughest task in Europe as well, playing Real Madrid. They're probably, I mean, Chelsea are great, right? But they're not quite as good as Liverpool or Man City either, you would say. I know they're European champions. I get it. Don't worry, Chelsea fans. I know you're brilliant. But I just think they've got a little bit of a harder schedule from that point of view. And obviously Reece James wasn't playing in the last game either, so you'd have to be really sure about his kind of fitness and his minutes. And of course you could just default to go into Rudiger, but then that's a lot less exciting from an attacking point of view, and I'd probably rather just pick up Robertson or Cancelo. The games in 31 and 32 are much better, right? Brentford at home, Southampton away, no game against Liverpool, no game against Man City, and the fixtures for the rest of the season are really good as well. But again, we don't necessarily have to pick them all up this week, so we're only going to have to go for one. So that obviously all three of those players I'd love to have in my team. But in terms of priority, I think Cancelo is probably the one. So to get a bit more money, I think I would go Jimenez to Weghorst, and I'd probably play him against ahead of Broja. I'm not going to worry too much about exactly what the team looks like right now. And then Seiss, who's blanking in game week 33, goes to Cancelo. I've still got 0.6 million in the bank, and then that is probably my team for game week 31. I don't necessarily like Doherty is of course not as good as Robertson. He's not as good as Reece James, but to take a hit to not play him against Newcastle at home, I don't think that's needed. And if you come on to game week 32. Again, you'd probably play Trent and Cancelo, even though they're playing against each other, and you bring Doherty out for Brighton at home for Tierney. Do I need to rush out and get Robertson in there to play Man City? Probably not. Reece James would be a good option, yes, and maybe that'll be the way that I go. But that's kind of what I'm saying about prioritising these kind of transfers for these players. So all three are on my watch list. I think right now I favour Cancelo for the reasons that I've mentioned, but that could change. Out of these three, who are you bringing in your side this week? Let me know below. Mason Mount's someone I really like the look of again. Good fixtures coming up in the short term. Brentford at home and Southampton away, both really good. Chelsea, definitely goals in that. Again, the Arsenal-West Ham games are maybe a little bit more difficult, but if we're thinking long term, the fixtures afterwards are pretty good for Chelsea. They can score goals in most games anyway, and they've got games to rearrange. And Mount's ownership in the top 10k is 1.08%. It's so low. Havertz is obviously another one to look at. The only reason I'm kind of looking more at Mason Mount is just minutes. That's it. And I think the prediction of minutes over the next few game weeks are going to be key because there is Europe, there is fixture congestion, players are going to get rested. And I just think as good as Havertz has been as the number 9, and again, he is the number 9. I'm sure he is going to start in that position against Real Madrid. I don't really have any doubts about that. But in some of the easier games, if they do need to rest players, surely Lukaku's going to get some minutes at some point. And I just think Mount is less likely to drop out. Not that it's impossible, but just less likely to happen. And he has been brilliant all season. I think he's got 8 goals, 8 assists. His expected numbers are decent. They've improved from last year. 5.1 points per match. 7.5 million is pretty cheap. He looks like a good option. But again, it's where does he fit into our teams? And I want to talk around this because a lot of people are probably thinking similar. Like, how do you fit? It's all well and good having all these good midfielders and defenders, but where do they fit in? And if you look at my current midfield, Salah, Kulusevski, Rafinha, Son and Saka, there isn't too many players there where there's a priority to get rid of them, right? I mean, Son against Newcastle is fine. Saka against Palace away is probably okay as well. Salah, obviously, we don't need to talk about him. And Kulusevski's got the same fixture as Son. And as much as people, I know, dislike Rafinha for plenty of reasons, he's got Southampton at home and Watford away. So if we're talking about a priority to get Mason Mount in, I would look at these fixtures and say, well, Brentford and Southampton's when I want him, but none of my midfield really have fantastic fixtures right now, so I might have to put him off all the way until game week 35. Just to come back to the team a little bit, I do think right now 5 midfielders is what I'm going to play most games. The only forward, I think it's literally the only good forward right now is probably Kane. I don't think Lacazette is bad, but if I was picking a team again right now, would I definitely have him in? I'm not sure I would. And there's literally no others that I think are great. Like Weghorst is okay, but these aren't game-changing players, I would say. So midfield 5 is where it's at. So at some point, and for this particular point, instead of doing Jimenez to Weghorst, I've done Jimenez to a 4.5 million forward, to afford Cancelo and have money to upgrade. I've got 2.8 million in the bank. Rafinha to someone like Mason Mount could happen. Now, obviously, Rafinha had COVID for the last game, and so maybe he'll be missing for game week 31. I'll have to wait and see. If that's the case, I might make the move. But I do really like him ahead of Havertz. It's just a minutes thing. If you told me right now that Mount and Havertz are going to play the majority of the games for the rest of the season, and Havertz is going to play the same, if not more minutes, I would maybe go for him. But there's nothing really to say that's definitely going to be the case. I just think Lukaku is a bit of a... He's obviously not favoured right now, but at some point he's probably going to play some of those easier games, which is the games you'd want Havertz playing, right? So I really like Mount as an option. I think you should definitely consider him. I think if you've got a similar team to me, but maybe you've got like a Coutinho in midfield instead of Rafinha, well, I wouldn't advise going Coutinho to Rafinha, even due to the fixtures, because Rafinha is going to blank in 33. At that point, someone like Mount might be better. But for my team, I think it's going to be difficult to get him in soon. He might be one, more towards the end of the season, is what I'm trying to say. So we need a bit of competition for Mason Mount, right? And that is going to be Phil Foden. Only 0.3 million more expensive. His ownership is crazy low, 0.35% in the top 10k. And it's worth saying, right, obviously players that have done well recently will have higher ownership in the top 10k because their points have helped their owners get into the top 10k. But still, that is crazy low. His overall is 5.5%. And I think he's one of those players that I just love for FPL, as long as he's getting minutes. I think his underlying numbers, expected goals, expected assists are always good. But people have such high expectations from him, they almost get put off. And I kind of like that. I think people will be put off by him. And I think in the back of our minds, we think, right, Man City attacker, probably not going to get that many minutes, is going to be a rotation risk. But he hasn't really been that at all this season. He has probably been, outside of Kevin De Bruyne, one of the most consistent players that's in that team for Pep every single week. And unlike Mason Mount, okay, he's got the Liverpool game, but he doesn't have Arsenal and West Ham back to back. Once that Liverpool game's done, like the fixtures over the next 6 are just so good, I would love to find a way to bring him in. Now, obviously, it's the same problems as Mason Mount. He's got to take the place of someone like Rafinha. But once he's in, I think you just keep him in there. And you just probably hold him for the rest of the season, hope there's little rotation, and just have a good bench, right? Now, for this, I've taken a few hits just to show you the kind of team that I could go for. But I can afford, if I go Jimenez or Dobbin, to have, or any 4.5 million forward, by the way. James, Cancelo and Trent. Okay, I can't have Robertson as well, but I've got Phil Foden in there instead of Rafinha. And then he's just got Burnley. Okay, Liverpool is not necessarily ideal. Again, Reece James could come in ahead of Doherty here. But then you look at it, it's just Brighton, you keep him in. Watford, you keep him in. Leeds, you keep him in. Newcastle at home, you keep him in. And he's just a steady player there. And then you focus transfers elsewhere, maybe starting to take some of the Spurs players out and stuff like that. And if we just quickly go to the FPL page and look at Phil Foden, he doesn't miss out that many minutes. And I'm not saying it won't happen because of Champions League and stuff like that, but he's played 90 the last 4. He played 81 against Norwich, 70 against Brentford, Southampton it was 90, 87 against Chelsea. The only minutes he's really missed is when he was injured, and obviously there was a few issues outside of football and stuff like that, but most of the time when he's been fit, he has played. And that is pretty good, right, for a Man City player, or a Man City attacker. So I think alongside De Bruyne, he's the best option. And because he's so much cheaper, he's just easier to fit into our teams. The only thing I would say, for anyone that's thinking about bringing in like a Mount or a Havertz or a Foden, and if I just quickly come back to, we'll just reset it, right, reset my team. And it looks like this right now. This is the midfield. These players, outside of Salah, don't have anything else to play for, and that kind of is really key right now. Spurs have only got top 4 to play for. Arsenal have only got top 4 to play for. Rafinha's only got, not getting relegated to play for. And that is kind of big when all these teams we're looking at, like Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, they're all great. And I don't see that much rotation, but we could see reduced minutes. So a player starts, comes off around 55, 60, 65 minutes, depending on how the game goes. And that obviously gives them less time on the pitch to do what we need them to do and score FPL points. So it is, I think the way the template is coming out of the Gameweek 26 to 30 period, it is hard to completely mix it up. I think you're probably looking at maybe changing a striker around and probably adding to the defence, which is why Robertson, Cancelo and James are probably top of my list. But I do really like the look of Mason Mount and Foden as well. So I'm keeping them on the watch list. If there's any injuries to this team, then I'll definitely consider bringing them in. Let me know below who is on your watch list. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll have another video for you soon, probably going through my chip strategy. When the hell I'm going to free hit, I'm still quite undecided. Until then, I will see you soon.